In this video, we're going to talk about when God's Sabbaths actually are. So the question on the title of this video is Saturday God's Sabbath? Well, the thing that I would ask you is Saturday or Sunday in the Bible? Where do Saturday and Sunday come from? They come from Rome. And so Christianity, or counterfeit Christianity, through the Harlot Catholic Church, changed Sabbath to Sunday, as they worship many sun gods. And Jews had gone into captivity to the Harlot Catholic Church, and they were told by the Romans that their Sabbath was Saturday because they hadn't been keeping had not been keeping track of the Sabbaths. Now, I don't know at what point that actually occurred. Like, at what point do you stop keeping track of that? Was it the new generation, like the next generation of Jews? Whereas their parents weren't keeping track of it while they were in captivity, and so this new generation did not know. I don't know what happened there. All I know is Saturday is not in the Bible, and neither is Sunday. But that Saturday has become the Jewish, quote-unquote, Jewish Sabbath, and Sunday is the Christian, quote-unquote, Christian Sabbath. And all of it is counterfeit. In Hosea 2:11, it says, I will stop all her celebrations, her yearly festivals, her new moons, her Sabbath days, all her appointed festivals. So God has let us know that he's going to stop all of those things. But then by Ezekiel, when Ezekiel's going through the third temple, you can see that all of those things are reinstituted. So God brings them back, and he reinstitutes them in the third temple. And guess what? We're the third temple. So at some point, he brings this back. Now, we started off as a body observing Saturday Sabbath. That's what we were doing for a very long time. And then observing God's holy days. And then God started to bring us into understanding that what we were observing was incorrect, and that the calendar that's being presented as the Hebrew calendar has been prostituted to the Gregorian calendar, to the Harlot Catholic Church and their Gregorian calendar. And he began to bring us into truth. And so he began to reinstitute his calendar and his Sabbaths and his new moons and his appointed festivals. New moon, by the way, as according to science, is the dark moon. New moon that has always been the new moon, historically during biblical times, has always been the crescent. And we know from the word that the new moon begins the new month. And if it begins the new month, it begins a new day. Because you can't have the new month begin with the 30th day of the month. So we know from the word, we know from Genesis, and we know from Revelation, where God is talking about the 1,260 days being 3.5 years, that there are 30 days in each of his months. In Genesis, it talks about 150 days being 5 months. So we know that there are 30-day months in God's calendar, and that from what science is calling the new moon are 29.5 days from new moon to new moon. So what that means is that there are 29.5 24-hour days, but 30 God days. So what this could mean, and we're still trying to discern this and understand at what point does the day shift. But here's what I present to you. The new moon, we know, this is a basic fact. The new moon starts the new month, so it has to start a new day as well, which means that when that crescent comes up, no matter what time of day it is, when that crescent comes up, you got a new day and you got a new month, and you've kicked out the 30th day. So that 30th day may not have made a full 24-hour circuit. And if the new month and the new day kick out the 30th day, then it's also likely that that first day in what is being called a 29 lunar day month is actually not a full 24-hour days as well. Now, if this is too cumbersome, don't worry about it right now. Let me tell you some basic facts. We know from Bible that there are 30 days in God's month. 30 days is not evenly divisible by 7. We know that a Sabbath is defined as 6 working days and then 1 rest day, and there's your Sabbath. That 7th day is a rest day. If you have a high Sabbath or a special Sabbath, that is referring to holy days, holy day Sabbaths. Holy days in which you are to observe a Sabbath. That's a special Sabbath. We also have another rest day, which is a new moon rest day. And we know that from Amos because God was rebuking the people because they were in a hurry to get back to work and go cheat each other on new moons and Sabbaths. The implication is that people were resting on new moons and Sabbaths. And I should clarify on the first day of new moon, because on the second day of new moon, there are two new moon festivals. You got the first day and the second day is a work day. So here's how this goes. Here's why I say that 30 is not evenly divisible by 7, because you have the first day of the month is a rest day, and that does not have 6 preceding work days. So it's not a Sabbath, a 7-day Sabbath. It's just a rest day. It's a new moon day. Following that rest day, you're going to have 6 work days and then a 7th rest day, and that's going to be a 7th-day Sabbath. And that's going to happen 4 times in the month consecutively. So you have the first day, which is a new moon rest day. Then you have 6 days of work and a rest day, 6 days of work and a rest day, 6 days of work and a rest day, 6 days of work and a rest day. 4 consecutive weeks. And that last Sabbath of the month will be the 29th day of a typical month, except for holy days. Sometimes holy days kind of throw that off. I've talked about that in other videos. We're not going to talk about it here because it's going to confuse you, at least for now while you're trying to get this understood. Then the 30th day is typically going to be a work day, and then you have a rest day on the first day. So God's calendar is not like the Roman calendar in the sense that there are a set of relentless 7-day weeks that just restart and restart and restart. The restart on God's calendar is the new moon. That's what restarts everything. And it is also called the faithful witness in the sky. So you never need lose God's Sabbaths because you have that faithful witness in the sky. It's always going to start things over. Obviously, this was not being taught from generation to generation, which is what God said in his word. You need to teach this to your children from generation to generation. It's to be a lasting ordinance. They obviously did not do that, and so they lost God's Sabbaths, they lost his holy days, they lost his new moons and his festivals. So if the month is starting over this way, you don't always have a new moon on, Sunday through Saturday, do you? On a given Roman day is what I'm trying to say. And God never mentioned the names of any days. He numbered those days based on the number of the month or the number of the week. Day 1 through 7 in a week, day 1 through 30 in a month, day 1 through 360 in a year. And that's it. And so given that the new moon is not going to land on the same Roman day, neither are your Sabbaths. So in the last few months, we had Sabbath landing on Monday, Sabbath landing then at the next month, landed on Tuesday, and then the next month it landed on a Wednesday, and then this month it skipped right over Thursday, and it's now landing on Friday for the rest of this month. Now, am I talking about the month of May? No, I'm not. I'm talking about God's month. We're in the 5th month right now. Actually, I'm sorry. I think we're in the 4th month right now. Yes, that's correct. We're in the 4th month right now. The 4th month actually does not have a name in the Bible. The 4th and the 5th month are not named in the Bible. So we just say the 4th month. And for the entirety of this month, his Sabbaths they're going to correlate to Friday. And we also have a situation in which at the end of the month, the 29th day of the month, you're going to have a Sabbath, then you're going to have a work day on the 30th, and then you're going to have another rest day on the 1st of the month. So you can have these Sabbaths or these days of rest that are a day apart, or if it's what science calls a 29th day month, and that new moon is coming up sooner, you could even have technically 2 back-to-back rest days. Now, has God ever done this, where he puts 2 back-to-back rest days? Because, I know that someone's going to ask that question. You can't have 2 back-to-back rest days. Okay, well, explain the month in which Pentecost occurs. Pentecost occurs the day after the Sabbath, and you observe a Sabbath. So there's 2 back-to-back rest days. This requires a lot more work and a lot more attunement to God and to what he has established in order to continue observing his Sabbaths and his holy days, and etc. But isn't that what God has wanted? I mean, hasn't he been known to set up a pattern where we are hinging on him, where we're relying on him rather than the work of our own hands, rather than our own calculations, rather than what makes life convenient and easy for us? So what I would say to you is, what do you want? Do you want the truth, or do you want what's easy and convenient but will not save in the end? Yes, this is difficult. And so people in the body have had to then go to their employers and let them know, hey, this, for between this date and this date, I'm going to need these dates off. And we have had people leave the body because they were unwilling to do that, because God proved himself to them and testified to the body, testified to me as a shepherd, testified to the truth of what it is that we're doing. But then when God, asked them, as he's known to do, now what's it going to be? I showed you, right? He did this with the Israelites. You saw how I carried you on eagle's wings. You saw how I made a name for myself. What's it going to be? What did Joshua say? I choose you this day, but as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So no, God hasn't made it easy. We live in a generation where I have heard people say, oh, relationships should be easy. Says who? Says who, guys? Paul even told us in the Word that being married was going to make things a little bit more difficult for you, because a husband is going to want to please his wife, and he's going to be concerned about worldly things and pleasing his wife, and a wife is going to be concerned about worldly things and pleasing her husband. But someone who is single for the sake of the kingdom of heaven is concerned about the Lord, and they're able to be single-minded for the Lord. Relationships are not easy. But we do live in a generation in which people expect that you're going to be easy or easygoing and not put too much pressure or burden on me to be obligated to you. And that's exactly how people treat God. And if that is their attitude toward God, they're not going to receive the promises. If that's how they decide to treat him, with that kind of disdain, with that kind of entitlement, they're not going to receive the promises of the covenant. Because it's a lack of understanding for what that covenant even means. Like, when he redeems you, you now belong to him. And so you exist for him. And so you have to act like you exist for him. Not like you exist for the rewards, but that you exist for him and his purpose. And then he rewards you because of his righteousness, not because of yours. In conclusion, there is no Saturday or Sunday Sabbath. Those are counterfeit. They came from the harlot Catholic Church. They continue in the prostitutes that bore out of her, including counterfeit Judaism. Well, how do I know which is counterfeit Judaism? I'm going to tell you right now. The fulfillment of Judaism is Christianity. In Judaism, Jews understood that a Messiah was going to be sent. If they didn't accept that Messiah, they're not a Jew. Period. The world might call them Jews. That doesn't make them a Jew to God. Does that mean that Christianity has replaced Judaism or replaced Jews? No, the first Jews were Christian. Christianity is the fulfillment of Judaism. There is no other Judaism. What you see today is counterfeit. Counterfeit Christianity and counterfeit Judaism. The only truth that's going to save is written in the Word of God. Therefore, there are no messianic rabbis. There are no rabbis, period. I don't know what in the world would make a messianic rabbi more special or exempt from what Jesus said in the Word, which was, you're not to call anyone rabbi. That means messianic or not. All of this stuff is made up. It's a branding, it's a shtick, and it is deceptive. The truth is found in the Bible. That's it. And the way to discern whether someone is speaking on the truth or speaking the truth, and whether or not they have truth in them, was told to us by Jesus in the book of John. He said that if they speak on the authority of the one who sent them, then they are a person of truth. But if they speak on their own authority or the authority of the world, what they're looking for is their own glory, and there's no truth in them. Please discern this message with God.